use those programs. And that's because that's where the state of California is going to put the money. I think if we want to show the state of California that they're not on the right track, and that there's too much carrot in their behavioral health plans and not enough stick for discipline's sake, that we're going to have to come up with it ourselves. So that's what this board is asking from the population is, I prefer a different word because I'm a politician. I would say the word invest, and I would mean it. If you want to invest in your community, here is your opportunity. We can talk about moments where you can help, you can volunteer, you can do neighborhood watch. You could, Mr. Turner was offering some kind of assistance to the sheriff's office. So there are ways, but if you really want to invest in your community, this is where we're at now. So I personally prefer ballot option D in part because, as Mr. Johnson said, my word is on this anyway. I've already given my word, and so I don't mind holding a ballot option and using my word as collateral.
I too would like to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedule and waiting for their families to come here and attend this meeting. It makes all of our jobs much easier, but it is still a tough decision, as it will be come ballot time to put this on the ballot. I'd like to give kudos to our Sheriff Dean Brown. Dean, he does a phenomenal job at the Sheriff's Office, but on top of that, when Dean comes to the board, he has a need, and it is a need. Dean doesn't come to the board with wants. Dean comes with needs. And Dean, I just want to thank you for that. I think I've told you that before, but I want to thank you that here in-house so that everybody knows that we have a man that is very judicious. He goes to the budget meetings. He knows what the budget is, and he understands that. That he's not out there to take just what he wants and to make his people happy. He looks out for the county as whole, as do all the other department heads. Because they all go to this and they know that there's limited resources, and they're not out there just to pad their own pocket. They're out there to get their need, and that's what our department heads do. And for that, I really appreciate that, and that's why we have such, for the most part, we have very good staff, very good department heads, and that's why we can run very efficiently, because if you look at whatever it is, the county salaries that we pay our county employees in Lassen County, we're way below the state average. But yet we still have phenomenal employees to work in this department. CalPERS. Yeah, CalPERS is killing us. And part of that is it's a political decision on their own part. They make political decisions on their investments, like they won't invest in RJ Reynolds because they think smoking is bad for you. Well, it's not a financial investment, it's a political investment, and for that, I don't think they've made their correct investments, and it's coming back to bite us at the county, and the cities and the state that have to pay for that stuff. We need to understand where our dollars come from. And a lot of that is open. I appreciate Mr. Hawley's due diligence and taking his time and investment. I want to thank the county staff for helping that, and did a very good job of articulating that. And so we all need to have an understanding of where our numbers come from, where our money is, where our money comes from, and where our money goes. Going back to Mr. Hemphill's talk, Jim Chapman, on one of his last CSAC meetings, he come back to San Bernardino talking about their law enforcement, public safety, how they consolidated down in San Bernardino, and I don't know, I never really took it much farther than that, but maybe we do need to pick that up and take a look at that with the conjunction with the city, and I don't know, maybe that's something we can do to help consolidate for the public safety. We can all work together on that.
Aaron, I'm sorry. I went to that CSAC meeting and I followed that. What San Bernardino did is paid a giant consultant to increase efficiencies. And here's the danger of increasing efficiencies. The money that they raised for these efficiencies was eaten up by the giant consultant. So I don't know what to tell you on that one. That was an honest attempt by San Bernardino to do the right thing, but if you research it in the last 2 years, they didn't get any of those cost savings. So anyway, sorry to interrupt. But.
No, that was perfect. Thank you. That's what it takes. They said that we want to do what's ours. Thank you for that.
We're the ones that win.
And the next thing that comes back, it comes down to choices when it comes to budget time. What are we going to, we have limited amount of money, what are we gonna put this money to? Yes, we're gonna, if this ballot measure does pass, depending on what form, what option we decide to take. There's gonna be money, there's gonna be options on there, depending on which one it is, whether there's gonna be general fund or if it all goes to the sheriff, or public safety, or if some of it's gonna go to general fund, etc. Well, there's no guarantee that 5 million or whatever it is the sheriff's getting today, is that 5 million going to stay there? No, it's always going to fluctuate, it's always going to be variable. Each department has a fluctuation. I'm sure Richard probably get into a little bit later, we can go over some of these later.
Okay.
Anyway, it just goes to show that there's flexibility there. And so, even though that we do get this, and there's going to be flexibility, and then on the other side, it's a down year where there's not as much money needed from the sheriff, it can go to other departments, and people have to realize that. And it also goes back to the guys sitting up here at this board, and the people that sit on the city council, on their intestinal fortitude of where they can say no to keep the money going where it needs to go. And that's the hard part, is the budget time to have, to make everything go, to keep a balanced budget, and to put the money in the right places where it needs to go. And anyway, that's where I'm at, and that's what I'm going to encourage the people to do, is to hold the people that sit up here, as well as the council members, if this is successful, to hold their feet to the fire, to make them accountable to jump hold their end of the deal. And so anyway, so with that, I'll pass it back to Chris.
So a lot has been said tonight. I know one thing as a police chief, actually there were two things that as a police chief that I never wanted to go to the council and say. One was crime is rising, and number two was I need more money. And so I can speak for Sheriff Brown because he and I worked pretty closely together when I was here at Susanville. We, as law enforcement officials, try to stop that gap before it gets to the general fund. So we're looking for grants. I know the sheriff is looking all the time for grants to cover any part of the law enforcement he needs. We're sending people out to try to do community policing, because it's really through community policing that we get the change to happen. There is never going to be a time when we can put enough officers out there to keep you all safe. There is no time that's going to happen. But it's through the community and getting them all together and be a part of the solution is how we bring this back. Nobody wants to come here tonight and ask you to pay more taxes. But we need it at this time. We're finding that crime has increased. The one thing that no one ever wants to say, it's happening. Since 9 years ago when I retired, the whole penal code has changed. Now it's not a felony to be in possession of heroin. They don't go to jail. I heard a reporting on the radio the other day, looking at the logs from the police department, that somebody got caught with heroin and got a ticket and was released. That would never happen back in my day. Those people would go to court, they'd be charged with a felony, and they'd probably get a year or two in jail. Well, that's not happening anymore. That's why I'd like to be part of Nevada, not California. I don't think I could do the sheriff's job anymore. I get so frustrated when I hear the reports on the radio about what these people are getting away with anymore. And people go, well, it's a victimless crime. They're taking drugs. They're hurting themselves. No, it's not. Have you had your car broken into? Have you had your house burglarized? Have you been assaulted? Have you had a home invasion? Those kind of things. Does that sound like victimless crimes? Not to me. So they can say what they want about, crimes going down to California. Yeah, because it's not a crime anymore. That's the reason why it's going down. So in order to combat this, in our county, we really need to have 24-hour patrol. We haven't had 24-hour patrol in when? Ever? 2002. I know when I was the police chief here, you know, we had 24-hour patrol in Susanville. And we oftentimes had to go wake up a deputy and go with them to cover them out in the county because there was nobody. We need to get that back. And the only way we're going to, actually there's two ways we can do this. We don't need this sales tax at all if we buy local. How many people do you know leave the city and spend their money in Greenland? Their sales tax is 8.25%. Why do you go there? Spend your money here whenever you can. If we had every person who made money in this county spend it in this county, we wouldn't need a sales tax increase. But is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. Can we try to make it better? Yes. Businesses could get behind a buy local campaign and get something going. Because I don't think it's happening. We have how many employees out of the prison that are making, if you think our CAO makes a lot of money, go look at how much some of those prison people make. I've seen some that make $400,000. And where is that money going? It's not staying here. Do they buy their cars here? Do they buy their clothes here now that we do have a clothing store? Do they live here? Exactly. If we could somehow stop that bleeding, we wouldn't be here. We would have enough money to run on the general fund. But we don't. So what do? You all know that I'm solid law enforcement back. I live and breathe law enforcement still. I'm not sure I could ever do that job again because I think I just ticked everybody off. But I have an option E. And Joseph, you must have read my notes because it pretty much said that. So my notes is option E, the special tax for public safety, period. It's to bring back 24-hour patrol, no supplanting, and an oversight committee. So anybody that believes that that money is not going to public safety, they'll have a committee they can go to and say, how come that money's not going to public safety? So I don't think anybody knew I was going to throw that one out for option E, but that's my option E. That is a law enforcement option. So where do we go from here? I'm going to give it back to Richard and Bob to let you know what the process is and what we have to do to get it there. Oh, by the way, one more thing. Sorry, Richard. One more thing. I don't believe we'll get 2/3 vote. So, what does that mean? It's up to you and me and these guys and everybody in this county to get out and get the vote. Because otherwise, I can tell you by looking at the statistics, public safety taxes usually no go. They don't pass. And you know what they don't pass by? 63%. So what is that? 3%, 3.5%. So that's a lot of work to lose that vote by 3%. So if we're going to do this, let's do it. Let's not make it a failure. Let's make it a success for everybody here and get this place back to the Susanville that we knew and the Lassen County we knew. Thanks.
Okay, I neglected to, I think, flesh out one of the definitions that I think may become important if we move forward on a special tax, and that's how we define what public safety is. I think, most of us recognize the Sheriff's Department as the predominant public safety agency in the county, at least, and city police department. But in our analysis, we've included, by virtue of the county budget, public safety fund, we expand that definition a little bit, and I want to go over that so that we're all speaking the same language, and this definition can be changed or modified, but it will need to be included if we move towards a special tax. If I've got my idea of what I think public safety is, and that would include juvenile hall, probation, the sheriff jail, public defender, victim witness program, district attorney, the sheriff patrol and coroner function, sheriff animal control function, sheriff dispatch function, along with the jail, physician medical, emergency services, and sheriff court security. Now, one item that I would like to throw out there for discussion that I did not include there, but easily could be included as we, transition. I think we're in a transition period of where at least marijuana and maybe other drugs are moving from a criminal enforcement standpoint to a code enforcement standpoint, and certainly we have huge demands on the county code enforcement effort lately that we may want to expand that definition to include code enforcement. So that's obviously the subject to debate and change, but that's what I've proposed as a definition for public safety. And in addition to that, I did want to talk a little bit about the mechanics of the ballot measure, and I guess kind of ask the board, and maybe put the board on a little bit of a spot here, is that we need some direction tonight to move forward on one of the options that we presented, or another option that's yet to be developed. And that's just simply because of the timing required in the adoption of an ordinance to place this measure on the ballot, which we think the latest date could be February 27th for adoption of that ordinance. And so I wanted to point that out. I'm happy to go into whatever level of detail the board would like in terms of expenditures and so forth, but I don't know that that's terribly productive. We did that a lot last time, so I'll defer to you.
And Richard, I have to agree with you on the code enforcement, because that's a huge issue, and it
Measure is not binding. It is simply what it states. It's an advisory measure, and in fact, making some sort of commitment, like was I think requested by Mr. Johnson, could jeopardize the validity of a general tax if it were a general gentleman's agreement or something like that, if it were an official commitment. So I appreciate the board's patience in responding to that request. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Do you mind if I take a second on that? I actually, I just spoke and I actually said something a little different than that, didn't I, Richard, when we spoke to Mr. Johnson? But I would prefer that the city and the county work with this hand in hand. I mean, that's my feeling, and I don't want a tax that doesn't include the two bodies, because I think in part, the challenge that we face is only going to be met by acting together in concert. All the organizations in this area, I mean, the neighborhood watches, we've talked about them, they're only as effective as the neighbors that are actually in those watches that are doing their work. Each one of those boards or advisory committees that's out of there, they're all struggling, we know it. If you're on any of those boards, you're already struggling to find another board member for it. So if we don't hang together on this one, we will surely hang apart. So to me, I don't want to do a tax measure that won't pass. That's not how I work normally. If I'm going to work towards something, then I want it to work. And even D is not going to work unless all the partners agree to it. So my part on this is the sales tax. And like I say, D works in a way, but it sounds like it almost doesn't if the advisory measures fail. So maybe B or C that we're looking at. In that case, it'd be B. Do you need a motion for this, or is this direction of staff?
I think we're agendized for direction to staff, but what I'm looking for is a specific direction. I do have one more thing I wanted to just mention, I guess. Case County in 2016 did a very similar to our proposal, whereby they proposed a tax for the city, there's 4 cities in Kings County, and the county to share a sales tax, kind of like we're proposing. based on population. So that with each city, based on their share of the entire population and the unincorporated area, would receive a share of that new tax for public safety. And that measure failed, but listen to the percentages by which it failed. The yes votes were 66.29%. The no votes were 33.71%. So it failed by a factor of less than 0.5%.
Dan, did you have something you want to say?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I wanted to make a comment regarding option D. The concern I think I would have from the city's perspective is that, there would be no guarantee of funding for the city. It'd be a tremendous risk, I think, on the city side if that was the option that was proposed and it were to pass, because potentially that would result in a situation where the city would receive $0 from that tax measure. And so I would probably have difficulty recommending that option be approved by the city council. I just wanted to share that with the board.
Could I just, if I could just mention, that very issue that Mr. Newton raises, we recognize, and that's kind of the genesis of option B, which admittedly is slightly more complicated, but does provide security for the city while still maintaining the general status of the measure, which could also be accompanied with a advisory measure. Maybe that's, a way of getting around that, having the tax sharing agreement, and then an advisory measure that suggests how those funds would be spent on for the county.
I was just going to inquire to that as well.
So maybe that isn't too bad if it's police and fire, so that's one entity we don't have. And that's something that's truly needed as well.
If I may, that's an option that hasn't been discussed at the city council. The majority of the city's costs from its general fund are also public safety. So that scenario, I think, would be worth presenting to the council and giving their input on it. It wouldn't cover all of the needs, obviously, that the city has forecasted in the next 2 to 15 years that are going to be significant costs for the city. But it would definitely cover the vast majority of our needs from the public safety standpoint.
Richard, just explain what it costs to put this on the ballot, just so everybody's aware of that cost, just for transparency.
Sure. Is that working now? Yeah. So being combined, and sales tax measures can only be placed on certain ballots. This primary coming up being one, the general in November being another. So being combined with the general ballot certainly reduces the cost, because those fixed costs of holding that election are already there. We haven't gotten a complete estimate from the county clerk regarding that, but I think it would be relatively negligible because it's being combined with that regular election. Now, that's the election cost. There are, costs of Mr. Burns' time and drafting the measure and those sorts of things. But as far as hard costs of the election, I think they'd be relatively minimal.
Tom?
I think it's really critical that we go hand in hand with the city. To me, ballot B is the way to go. I don't think we're going to get a 66% any way, shape, or form approval rating on a tax. I'm the last guy that wants to apply a tax to our community. I'm also sitting up here listening to all you people with all these public safety issues. And we can't do it with nothing. We have to fight it with something behind us. I'm probably I am the only district that doesn't have any part of my district in the city. But I recognize the fact that they need help too. They're part of Lassen County. We're all in this together. So I support B. I think that's the easiest attainable tax. And I think I can't make that decision. I want to work hand in hand with the end of the city council. I'd like to hear what their recommendation is before we get any further down this road.
I'm also in favor of B if we're gonna have any tax, all I said, I'm not fundamentally in favor of tax, but I think we just need to send the message to the city that if we all kind of agree that we're on behind B and then come back again and, because we're all in this together like everybody's, you've heard that loud and clear, Richard, so until we hear from the city and they meet, and now we're gonna do that Wednesday, it's a slow process, but that's what we need to do, I believe, so everybody has a say in this.
I appreciate that, and I think that if it is the direction of the board to move forward with something that generally fits the description of option B, I think Mr. Newton and I could get together and try to draft out an agreement. I think it would have to come to the board probably on the 20th in the form of an agreement between the city and the county and the ballot measure language for approval. So I think it could be done. Mr. Newton has some comments on that.
Yes, Rich and I have spoken, I think, regarding both option B and C. It's due to some of the feedback that we've received at some of our meetings, as well as the joint meeting between the board and the council. I was planning on recommending option C to the council, which is I've gotten a lot of feedback on the special tax, the restricting the funds for public safety. And I really think it's important to garner as much public support and as little as we can as far as the public opposition to whatever is proposed. I think B is workable as well. We haven't worked through much of the details yet, but I think that the lower voter threshold is definitely something to consider. So we have a meeting on the 7th, and we can present those options to council. I feel like if we can work out the details, either B or C would be supported.
And if I could, if we go towards the B model, I think I would recommend that we accompany that measure with an advisory measure regarding the public safety, and for no other purpose than to get the public input on that.
And Mr. Burns, you've checked on that to make sure that doesn't make it fall into the special tax when you
Which part?
follow up with the advisory measure?
Well, no, so,
Because there is some contemplation.
yeah, no, there's definite consequences. If we sit up here, I'm sorry, Mr. Supervisor, and we pledge that we are only going to spend the monies raised as a result of a general tax measure on law enforcement, we breach the requirement of Prop 218, which is that special taxes must be approved by a 66 2/3% plus one, and that would not be okay. And so, yes, that's why Richard came back with, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. We can't even wink, nod. That's not appropriate either. And the first people that will be on us are the people from Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. And so you have to play it straight down the middle. If you're going to attempt to raise money through a general tax, you have to approach that from the beginning with an eye toward it being money that is contributed to the county general fund, and you cannot make pledges. I'm sorry.
But I think the question was about advisory.
Advisory measures, it's an advisory measure, it's non-binding. Did I answer your question?
Okay, I'm not sure I want to start another round of public input.
Make a short comment, please.
I know if I open this up, it might be Pandora's box. Go ahead, Pat.
Very short.
The Measure B just gives the public no way to assure that the money will be spent on public safety. And as Council Burns says, you can't tie the money down with an advisory measure. But on Measure C, even though it has a higher threshold, you can make a pledge to the public that the money will go to public safety, and that's what we would support.
What they added on to that, you may not have heard, is the advisory measure like in D. So,
Well, I think we just heard from Mr. Burns that if you add an advisory measure, not only is it not binding, you can't do it.
well, you can do it. He didn't say you couldn't do it.
Correct, you can do it.
He said it's non-binding and we don't have to, you wouldn't have to follow it.
Okay.
Since I opened that box in particular, the nod and the wink is not my normal way of doing business. So, and so that's where we get into trouble, is that the surety that you have that the money will be spent in the way that you wish it to be spent. I can understand your difficulty there, but in the end, what I learned growing up in Lassen County, what I learned from my father, is the ballot. I stood for election a year ago and won, lucky me. And that is your ultimate surety. And many of you were quick to point that out to me and still are, and I appreciate that. So let me clarify that.
Gary?
Just one quick comment. The tax isn't really the issue here. In a way it is, but I don't care if it's $1 instead of 75 cents. If we would solve our problems, I would vote for it. I just want you to know that. That's how important that I feel our community needs safety 24/7. So, thank you.
No, I really think the board is here tonight.
Okay.
100%. I know from going back to my law enforcement experience, if the people aren't happy with what's going on, there's got to be some kind of change, for the better, at least from our deputies and our police officers. So I think that's what the direction is that we have. Right.
I want to say that none of this will do any good unless we all shop locally. That's what my father told me back in 1957. He told me, you shop locally and you support your city. But the only thing I'm concerned about is, what about the city policemen? Or do they get any of this helps the city police?
Yeah, the city is included in this measure.
Okay, because this here, the definition on one just mentions the county, so. Thank you.
That raises a good point. I provided the definition of what the county public safety departments are. We would certainly need to do the same with the city if that were, if we won the special tax revenue.
Joe Turner from Milford. Just real quick, on the agenda, it states specifically at the 0.5% sales tax of approximately $1.4 million that it would generate for tax revenue. And we keep focusing to the 0.75, and there is no information being given to the public on the approximate $2.1 million of revenue that would be generating versus the 0.5%. So I just want to bring that up to you.
You missed it at the last meeting. It was at the last meeting. We had all that information. And that was an error on the...
But it's not on the agenda, so I'm pointing that out.
Okay, so back here again. I hear B from a couple on my right.
I like B, but I like C. I don't think C will pass.
We can't hear you.
I like C, but I don't think C will pass. If we can go to B, where we can amend the amend it, but maybe also we can have a companion advisory measure to go along with that, Richard, something like that, to advise the board and the city council on where the public can say where they think the money should be spent. I think that helps give clarity to our board as well as the city council. And also, I would like to have, in our definitions for the county, to add the code enforcement officer. I think that's very important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would.
Okay, so,
It's not lost on us up here that the people who are actually paying these taxes want the money to go to public safety and the sheriff's department. It's not lost on us at all. And that's my intention as a board member, get those departments money. So, I mean, B is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we can get a 66.67% voter approval. It's not lost on us, let me repeat it. We know that there's problems, and we want to help fix them in any way, shape, or form we can.
okay, Richard, I think I hear B.
Could I just recap what I understand the direction, because we're going to move forward pretty quickly. So option B would be general tax of 0.75% countywide, and the purpose would be general government, but with an accompanying advisory measure to specify that 75%, or pick another number, would be dedicated to public safety, the remainder to other governmental purposes. That would also be accompanied by separate agreement between the county and the city to amend the existing tax sharing agreement to provide the city with an increase in sales tax equal to 45% of the new tax.
And the code laws.
And to include code enforcement in the definition of public safety.
Can we add an oversight committee to that, so that there is some type of oversight on that?
I'm certainly not opposed to it. I'm guessing that the chair could.
Yeah, I think it's up to the chair to appoint that committee, so I'm not opposed to it.
Just by way of information for those that don't know, there is a budget and policy committee that's currently established in the county. Maybe that committee could serve the role, and we could maybe better define who's on that. I would suggest the sheriff, the auditor, the treasurer, perhaps, chairman of the board, etc. Perhaps we could bring back some options for that.
Okay, one last comment, and then we're done.
I just have one comment, because
Can you step to the mic so that people will be able to hear that? And say your name once again.
it's Chris Van Dievener again, and the biggest thing that I see, whether it be federal, state, county, city, whatever, public opinion all around is, with everything that's going on, is nobody is trusting government. Period, end of story. And they want transparency, the oversight committee, stuff like that. That's what people want. That's what you want. You know, that's what everybody wants. You know, and you can amend any of these. You know, apparently you've talked about A in another meeting. D's kind of off the board, and you're between B and C. You know, adding that right there would develop more trust county-wise with you guys, which could help people start shopping local, not going to Reno, Reading, anywhere else. You know, I mean, this 25% other, right there, you could have that, cut that to 12.5%, and there's your committee right there. There's your funding for that committee. You know, it's unfortunately a horrible time, on top of the gas tax that just passed and everything else, to impose even more taxes
on a small community and county with limited resources. The timing was horrible, but like you said and everybody else said, unfortunately it is a necessary evil. But at the same time, where we're at today, you have to have transparency and rebuild that trust within the community. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. The one thing that I didn't say, and usually I think I've said it at every single meeting, the reason we like sales tax is because not only are we paying it, but people who are visiting us are paying it. In fact, I had this conversation with somebody over in Plumas County today, and they said, yeah, I'd rather go to Susanville and go to Walmart than go to Reno. And I'd rather have my money spent there. And so there are others coming to our community and spending the money that we will take advantage of with the sales tax. So, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much for coming tonight.